The Celts were a people of mysticism, tenacity, and rich culture, though they lacked a written language for some time, making it hard to document their lives and civilizations for future generations. We have managed to learn a fair amount about these fascinating people, how they rose to power, how they existed, and even where they are now. Many people associate the Celts purely with Ireland, or at most, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. But that's quite heavily misleading. The Celtic people actually have inhabited a remarkable map of Europe over time, including the existence of Celtic tribes in Germany, France, Italy, Poland, Austria, Switzerland, Iberia, and even down to Thrace. With time, the Celtic culture had mostly become restricted to Ireland, Western and Northern, Britain and Brittany. Celts in Europe. These tribes were made up of a compilation of Indo-European peoples who shared similar cultures and languages. Unlike other widespread peoples, the Celts really didn't mingle with other Celtic tribes. They were far from an empire or even a single civilization, yet somehow, these tribes actually managed to become a serious challenge for both the Greeks and Romans. While the Greeks and Romans alike use similar terms to describe the Celts, both use such words vaguely and generally just to describe any peoples that they viewed to be outside of major civilizations. Nonetheless, Celtic tribes seemed to become a significant thorn in Rome's side throughout multiple territories and eras. Gallic Wars. Though the Romans had been forced to face off with Celtic tribes in Iberian that had sided with Carthage during that back-and-forth power struggle, the first significant clash between the cultures of Rome and the Celtics came in the form of the Gallic Wars. These conflicts began in the year 58 BC and ended in 50 BC. At this time, only a proconsul of Rome, Julius Caesar, decided to wage war on the Celts of Gaul with the aim of furthering his own political reputation. This was a brave move by Caesar, as the Celts were no weaker militarily than his own troops, and the former was distinguished for being exceptionally fearless. Many Celts of different tribes were known to even fight naked, showing no concern for
Another significant series of altercations between the vastly differing cultures came after the Celts had made their way to the British Isles. Historians aren't exactly sure when this migration began to occur, but by the time the Romans arrived, multiple Celtic tribes had already been established throughout the region. The local peoples had begun to mingle with these tribes, and as the Romans began their attempts to conquer the Isles in 43 AD under Emperor Claudius, they faced intense pushback from the Celtic Britons. The latter was successful for some time, and one tribe leader, in particular, gave the Romans quite a scare. Her name was Boudica, and she was the queen of the Iceni Celtic tribe of the British Isles. During the reign of her husband, Persutigus, the Iceni tribe had actually formed a loose alliance with the invading Romans and were able to avoid direct conflict. It wasn't until after his death that the Romans showed their true colors and suddenly attacked Persutigus' kingdom. Boudica was outraged by this betrayal and decided to exact revenge. Around 60 to 61 AD, Boudica gathered an army of Celtic warriors, including some from other neighboring tribes, and attacked the city of Camulodunum while the Roman governor, Gaius Paulinus, was over on the island of Mona. Upon receiving word of the destruction the Celts caused to the currently Roman-occupied town, Gaius and his troops raced to the nearby town of Londinium, today's London, hoping to reach it before Boudica and her warriors. Though the Romans did arrive in time, they failed to defend the city due to a lack of proper resistance. Gaius was short on troops and Boudica's army was notably larger and stronger. The Romans eventually decided to fall back and abandon the area, as the Celts burned. Globally, roughly 276,000 people speak Irish Gaelic as their first language. In Scotland, as of 2011, about 58,000 people could speak Scottish Gaelic. Around 883,600 people in Wales can speak Welsh and of the other three surviving Celtic languages, Manx, Breton, and Cornish, there are somewhere around a few thousand speakers, respectively. Modern Celtic identity faces some skepticism, in part due to what some view as an English nationalism, but also because of the fact that some question whether the term should even be used at all. Given the reality that the Celtic tribes were a vast collection of slightly different societies and cultures, it's a fair argument to consider that maybe it would be irresponsible to group them all as one in the past or today. But either way, the existence of the still used Celtic languages, all from the same historic family, even without the consideration of art and other traditions, seems to demonstrate that a general Celtic identity has and does still exist, at least to some extent. The Celtic League also stands as a pan-Celtic organization promoting modern Celtic identity. Conclusion. Through the surviving 6 Celtic nations, alongside other groups such as the International Celtic Congress. So, it seems that, regardless of modern criticisms, Celtic identity and culture never went anywhere. Which would imply that nothing really happened to the Celts either, aside from mixing with other ethnic groups and surrounding cultures. Genealogical research has shown that the endurance of Celtic ancestry is far from dwindling. And it even appears to be a common trend amongst those of Celtic roots to show a particular interest in those historic ties. While the lack of unity amongst the Celts may have been a leading cause of their inability